Alright, so I'm going to be replacing the screen and the battery on this iPhone 7 Plus. So you're going to need a pentalobe, let's see, what are the numbers? P2 or pentalobe 0.8. You'll need a Y000, and you'll need a PH or JIS 00, okay? So first we're going to use the pentalobe 0.8 or the P2, and we'll remove the two screws on the bottom here. If you can, turn off your phone. If you can't, then we're going to have to at least disconnect the battery first, okay? So keep the screws in order because they are different size, shapes, and lengths. You don't want to get them mixed up. If you mix them up, you can actually damage your phone. Okay, so remove these screws. The screw's kind of stuck. I might have to use a magnet to get it out. Okay. Alright, once you remove those, you're going to have to use a thin pry tool to get the screen out. You can also try using a suction cup, but I found a thin pry tool works the best. Okay, so I got this, and then what I do is I just get the tool under the glass. You want to be careful because you don't want to damage the home button, and also the cable runs along the side of the phone. Okay, so get in between the two layers, the glass and the metal frame of the phone, and then you just, as you have the screen slightly out, or the tool slightly out, you just slide it along. There's actually a metal frame here that prevents you from pushing the tool too far into the phone, but on the front it doesn't have that metal bracket. So make sure when you go through from the bottom side here that you don't push the tool too far, okay? But once you go along the sides, then you can actually just go all the way along, and there's the metal frame that will prevent you from damaging the inside. Okay, so here you can see inside the phone where the home button is, and then if you lift it, you'll see the cable is attached to the screen here. So you don't want to just lift the screen up. You want to kind of pull it slightly at an angle, and then we have to actually slide the screen back and then flip it over to the side. They might have changed the screen before because normally the adhesive up here is really strong, and you kind of have to work it, pull it down before you can actually flip it over this way. Okay, so after you get that open, we're going to switch to the Y000 screwdriver. Okay. All right, and we're going to remove this metal plate. There's 4 screws. Just remove those 4 screws. Okay, 1. Again, keep them in order because they are different size, shapes, and lengths. You don't want to get them mixed up and put the wrong screw in the wrong spot. If you put one that's too long in the wrong place, it can actually destroy parts. And if you put the short one, it'll come loose too easily, and then it can just fall out inside your phone and start causing damage to other components. Okay? Alright, so now we got all 4 of those screws out. What we're going to do is we're going to lift this metal plate off. Okay, I just used my fingernail. You can use whatever plastic pry tool. Okay, don't use metal tools to kind of pry these out because you can easily damage the components inside. Right, once you do that, there's this one connector here. Let me zoom in. So we're going to remove the battery connector first. So the battery connector is the one right here, the one that's going sideways. And I just use my fingernail, get underneath, and then I just pop this up. Okay, let's see here. Sometimes it's a little tricky, but there we go, just like that. Once you got it disconnected, what you want to do, press and hold the power button for about 10 to 15 seconds to drain any power. Make sure it's not going to turn itself on, and make sure that there's no electricity that can cause damage if you do happen to touch something metal or conductive onto the board. Okay, all right, once you do that, open this back up. We're going to disconnect these 2 cables. So just get underneath. I just use my fingernails again. You can use a plastic little pry tool, and then there's another cable underneath that one. You want to pry that up as well. Okay, just like that. Okay, now we want to be careful because this cable is still attached up here, so we have to disconnect and remove that as well using the JIS 000. Okay, so you want to hold the screen up. You don't want to let it drop down, otherwise that cable can get torn. And if you tear that cable, you're not going to have your earpiece speaker, you're not going to have the camera, the front-facing camera, and what else is missing? The light sensor and a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so just remove those 3 screws holding that metal bracket in place. Okay, oh, this one's kind of stuck in there. Come on. Oh, probably should come out with the metal bracket. So now that you got all the screws, remove the metal bracket. Oh, I see. The little mount for it came out with the screw. Usually the mount should stay connected to the bottom by itself, but it came out, so yeah. All right, so now we're gonna pop up this cable. This is for the camera and all the sensors in the front of the screen. All right, just pop it up just like that, and there we go. We got the screen out, okay? Now that we got the screen out, I am gonna have to use a heater to remove some of these components, but let me get that real quick. Here, what's plugged in over here. Okay, I'm gonna unplug some of this so I can plug my little heater in. I'll bring this over here so I have this heater. Okay, first what we're gonna do is, depending on yours, if your screen came with the metal bracket, so let's see if this one, sometimes they'll come with the metal back plate already installed. If it has that, then you don't need to remove the side screws, but if it doesn't, then you do have to remove the side screws. So we got this here. So this is what the, this earpiece should be up here. Okay, this is what the speaker actually goes into. And then this is the adhesive for the microphone. But as you can see, this metal back plate's already on it. You can see there's screws already holding it in place. There's 3 on this side and then 2 on this side, okay? So we don't need to remove that. If yours has this little rubber piece, make sure to throw that away. You don't want to leave that on there. And then here you can see the screen cables are already there. So the main thing we need to remove is the home button down here, and then the headphone, or not the headphone, the earpiece, and all the cameras up there. Okay, so to remove the home button, what you want to do is keep your finger underneath, one finger underneath the home button to press on the back of it. And then you want to remove the screw that's right over the home button first. Okay, that's the middle one between the, over the black plastic piece. Okay, once you do that, you can remove the other screws that are around it. The reason why I removed that one first is because if you take these metal, or these screws on the metal plate out first, and then if you put pressure on there, it can actually push the home button through, and you can actually damage the home button that way. Okay, so we're going to remove that, then we'll remove this screw. Okay, and then we'll remove the last screw here. All right, there's also one screw here holding this metal plate. Don't forget, if the replacement doesn't have that screw, you're going to have to replace that. You're going to have to take the screw out and put that using the JIS 00 or 000, or sorry, this is a JIS 00 screwdriver. All right, so we're going to take that screw out and we're going to put that on the replacement screen because it's missing. Okay, so just take that screw and then put that screw in there. Okay, so now what we're going to do, take this metal plate off that's covering the home button. And then, a little bit tricky, this part is to disconnect the home button. Let me zoom in so you can see it. All right, so to remove the home button, it's a little bit tricky because if you just lift this up, the connector underneath will also come up. The lighting is not really good on that. So what I do is I use my fingernail to hold the bottom half down like this, and then I use my other fingernail to pull it up. I don't know what people use to do this with the tools, but that's how I do it. I use my fingernails. Okay, now that you got that cable disconnected, what you're going to want to do, we're going to have to heat this a little bit. So I'm going to turn on my heater, and I'm just going to leave it there so it can get warm. You don't want to get crazy hot, just hot enough to make the adhesive easier to work with. Okay. And then to peel it up, I'm actually going to use a needle. You can use whatever plastic pry tools or something if you have that you can do it with, but I found a needle works best for this. Okay, so I'm just going to let it warm up, so that way the adhesive under this little piece here will be, more gooey instead of a solid, so that way I can slowly peel it up. Okay, so let it warm up. Depending what you use, you can use a hair dryer. You can even just leave this in the sun and the sunlight will kind of warm it up. If the sun is hot enough, you can leave it in the sun until it gets pretty hot. Yeah, hair dryer, heat gun. You can put it on like a hot plate, like on a low warm setting. Yeah, and pretty much anything. You can use a pan if you want. Just make sure it doesn't get like burning hot. So if you can still touch it, if it's hot enough that you can kind of leave your fingers there for a few seconds before pulling it away, then you know it's good. If it's like burning your hand, then you're probably getting to where you're almost destroying the thing. Okay, so now that it's warm, what you want to do, let's see, I don't know if it's warm enough, but let me zoom in. I'll leave the heater on just in case. All right, and then what you want to do is get underneath the connector here. So this one, this straight one here, that's not going sideways, that one is part of the screen, so you can kind of pull that out of the way. And then what you want to do is you have to get the needle or whatever tool you're using underneath this connector here. And I have this bend in my needle, so that way instead of like using the pokey end to kind of do it, once I get the needle under, I can use like the back, so it's like not a sharp point that's going into the piece. Okay, so just like this. And there we go. Okay, it is hot enough. I need to turn that off so I don't burn myself. And there we go. So now we got this connector disconnected or unstuck from the screen. And then what you do is you drop the home button through the hole. Okay, just like that. And there you go, we got the home button out. You have to be very careful with this because if you damage this home button, you'll never have the fingerprint sensor back and your Touch ID will never work again. They do have aftermarket buttons that work. They're not as responsive, but you can have the home button functionality back if you buy one of those. Okay, some people tear that cable, or even just from the drop it breaks it. All right, so then we're gonna replace or remove the camera sensors and the earpiece using the PH or JIS 00. So just remove all the screws up here. Okay, so there's one there, one here. Again, keep all the screws in order. They are different size, shapes, and lengths. You don't want to get them mixed up. Okay. All right. I just lay them out on my table the way I take them out, and that's how I know where I got them from. Okay. All right, last screw. We are going to have to use the heater again. Okay, so once you got that, just pull this metal plate off. Okay, that holds all the sensors in place. Lift the camera up. You don't want to touch underneath this thing because that's the camera sensor and the lens. And then if you touch underneath there, you'll get a fingerprint on it and you can't really clean it off. So you want to be very careful with that. And then this is the speaker. So you want to just grab this and pull it out. Okay. Be careful where you put that because there's a magnet in there and it can grab the screws and then make it hard to pick back up, or if it might make you lose track of them. All right. So now we're going to heat this part as well because this part is held in with adhesive. So let's just let that warm up. Okay. If you want, while you're waiting for that, you can actually put back in the home button. So what you do is you peel this back, okay, if yours has that little plastic protector over it, and then you just push the home button, the connector through the hole. All right, you're gonna have to move this connector out of the way. All right, and then get that underneath. Make sure that the home button is flush and is nice. You can feel if it's like sticking out weird. You want to be careful. Okay, and then there's a little hole in the connector that lines up with a bump. You want to just get that and get that lined up. All right, once you do that, you can put the adhesive back over. I think this might be already warm enough. Oh, not yet. Okay, once you do that, you want to, what I found, sometimes you have to use your fingernail and push this connector slightly over. You might have to also bend this one down into that crease to get it lined up properly, and then just get this over and push it on top. Okay, just like that. You'll feel it actually click. Okay, so now this should be warm enough, I hope. Okay, we'll set that screen aside, and then we'll take the needle, and I like to actually start with the little gold dots. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can see better. So these gold dots actually are what the speaker connects to. So we'll get the needle under there, okay, and then just slowly work your way over. So this will lift the thing up, and then I like to use the back side of that curve so that it doesn't risk damaging that connector. And then you just push it over. And there you go. As you can see, it lifted up the adhesive. Okay. And then there's also this piece that was falling out earlier, which holds the speaker in place and has the adhesive for the microphone, like I was talking about earlier. So if you want, you can use that to help peel it up, but usually I don't use that to peel it up. Okay. All right. Then you got the two sensors here. Usually these sensors, they'll be held in. There's one that's kind of sticks in a lot more with adhesive, but I don't know if I can even show this because the lighting is so bad. But let me zoom in more. Okay, so what I have to do is I use the needle here, and then I get into the corner of this piece. Okay, I don't know if you'll even be able to see it. The lighting is so bad. But you get in the corner, and then I slide it up to the top, and then sometimes I have to slide it also to the bottom. You don't want to use too much force, because if you do, you can actually rip the sensor off the cable there. Okay, so there we go. Let's zoom back out. Okay, so we got that out, and now we're gonna peel up the rest of this sensor board. So usually what I do, I usually don't actually lift up this piece of the board. I usually go underneath with the needle, and then I guess I'll peel this up so that you can easily see. So what you do, the connector is here, just slide the tool around to the side parts and then peel that. And then if you can use tweezers or something, you can kind of peel this up. If it's stuck really strong, you can actually use more heat, but just peel this off just like that. And here you can see this piece came out. Okay, so this screen is done. This is the broken one. We can throw that aside. Okay, and then what I was saying earlier, I guess you can reuse this piece if you want, but usually I peel this off and then I just stick the new one on. So to do that, if you did actually bring this whole thing with it, you can actually grab the connector as much as you can, and then you can peel it off. But usually that's not the case, so what I end up having to do is I take the needle, and then in between where this rubber piece is sticking up, I use the needle there to kind of pull it out. So, oops, I don't think you can see. But yeah, so I'm not going to actually peel this off because this will make it more difficult, but there's a layer here that you can go between. And then what I do is I get the needle in there and I use that to peel it up. I don't know if you can see, but that's how I would normally peel this up, not replacing this whole speaker grate grill thing, okay? But I'm going to use that because this one came out so nice and easy. So I'm actually going to take this one back out and not use this, okay? All right, so we're going to set that aside. And then if you want, you can check here because a lot of times gunk gets caught in there. So you can actually use a toothbrush and clean it up. Let me get the toothbrush and I'm going to clean that off. So if your ear speaker's not working too well, a lot of times it's because there's gunk in this. So you just clean that out. Okay, and this is the little ear mesh. Okay. So there we go. You can also check the ear speaker itself. I don't know if you can see here, there's like white gunk all over the speaker output. So I just take the toothbrush and I just clean that off as well. Okay, just like this. And there you can see the white gunk from that is gone. Okay, so that's how you fix the problem if there's a problem with the ear speaker that you can't hear. Okay, so now we're going to put this piece back in. The way I line it up, I just look at the little holes on the little speaker part. I don't know if you can see it because it's underneath the camera, but let's see here. So that gold piece at the bottom, it has two little holes in it. So you line it up with the little dimples that are sticking up there, and that's how you get it in place. Oops. Okay. Just like that. Okay. And then because I'm reusing this, make sure that's all lined up with the new screen. And then you want to make sure these sensors all get lined up as well. So make sure that it goes in properly. Sometimes this little connector or the sensor doesn't go in right. You want to be careful. Make sure it goes completely flat. Sometimes I have to use the needle to do this because it doesn't want to go down properly. So let's see here. Get that in. Yeah, this sensor's always like somewhat of a pain to get in the right way. So you just kind of have to work it. All right. If you don't get this sensor in right, I think this one's the light sensor. If you don't have that go in the right way, then when you put the screen to your ear or the phone to your ear, it's not going to turn the screen off. So there we go. Or it will always turn itself off thinking that the screen is like already at your ear. So you can tell it's flat because you can feel like it's more flush. Okay. So now we'll take the speaker, lift the camera back up, drop it in place. You can line it up with the screw holes, and then usually you know that it's in the right place because when you try and move it around, it kind of stays there. Okay, so there we go. Put that camera back in the camera hole, and then get that, put that on top, and get it all lined up. All right, so now we're going to put back the screws here. All right. Usually I'll put the screws in loosely first until I get most of them in, just to make sure everything's lined up properly. Just like this. Okay, and then I also, if you notice, I twist it backwards first, so that way you hear the click, and then you know that it dropped into the right spot. Okay, just like that. Okay, and like that. All right, now tighten the screws down. All right. Okay, now that we got all the screws for that in place, make sure that it's tight so that it's not going to come loose. Okay, now we have to do the bracket for the fingerprint sensor. Okay, put the bracket over, make sure that little dimple lines up. All right, and then just like before, since we did the other one first, we're actually going to do that last this time. So you want to put the outside screws in first. Oops, I forgot. Switch to the JIS 000 screwdriver. Don't forget that. I don't know why Apple decided to use all different screwdrivers just to make it a pain. Okay, again, you want to put it in loosely at first just to make sure everything lines up. Okay. All right, and then once you get all the screws in, you can tighten them down. Okay, sorry. All right, now that you got the 3 outer screws in, you put the last one for the home button. Same thing like before, you want to put your finger underneath, holding it from the bottom, so that way when you push it, it won't put too much pressure on it. And you don't want to squeeze the screen too hard because you can damage the LCD. So there we go. Get all those screws in. All right, so now we got the screen ready to go. We're gonna replace the battery. Okay, so the battery, the way you replace it, the safest way, a lot of times these adhesive things, so these little black pieces, there's actually adhesive underneath that you stretch and pull. The safest way to do that, you want to take the taptic feedback motor out first. So remove the screws there. This is using the PH or JIS 00 screwdriver. Okay, so remove those. There's 3 screws. Okay, and then once you remove those 3 screws, you should be able to just lift this taptic engine out, okay, or at least move it out of the way. There's actually a cable connecting underneath, so you want to be careful with that. Okay, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to be careful with that. So on the older models, this thing just comes out, there's no cable underneath, so I guess Apple made it so it's more difficult to work on. So there's actually a cable at the very bottom corner there. All right, so here you got these I don't know if you can see, it's kind of hard to see the color difference, but these parts you can actually peel them up. So what I do is I just use my fingernail. There's these black strips of adhesive, And what you want to do, this adhesive comes out from just stretching. So I'm going to turn the phone sideways so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. But basically you peel this off. Okay, again, I have to be careful with this Taptic engine. I don't know if removing these two screws will disconnect that, but maybe I should try. Okay, let me take these two screws out just to see. Normally I don't take this whole phone apart like this to get the battery out, but maybe for the sake of the video I'll do it. Let's see if it comes up. It looks like it's still being held by something. So this black plastic piece looks like it will come up after removing those two screws. There's an adhesive kind of holding it. Okay, so this is the seal, it looks like, for the speaker. There's not really a speaker in there though. Okay, and then there's actually a connector under here. It looks like you have to pop that up. So I'm going to use my fingernail underneath and pop it. Maybe I shouldn't. I might end up damaging something. Okay, so I'm not going to risk it because I'm not too familiar with that model. I haven't messed with this before, so I'm actually going to put it back in. Okay. So I'll let somebody else mess with it. I don't need to mess with that, so I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, I'm sure there's other videos out there that people have taken it out, so sorry I'm not showing it in this one, but I don't want to risk damaging someone's phone and then they're going to say, why doesn't this feature work anymore? So, yeah. Okay. So maybe if somebody sent me a throwaway phone, I'd try it, but since this isn't a throwaway phone, I'm going to try and keep it as safe as possible. Okay, so I'm just flipping that up. Okay, here you can see I peeled the black piece off and then you can see the white tape underneath. So what you want to do, this white tape, it actually stretches back. So try and grab the tape as good as you can and then you just stretch it back. So this you actually want to try and keep as flat as possible. The haptic or Taptic engine actually gets kind of in the way. So sometimes what I have to do is I have to push it down with my finger to basically make it so that it's flat while I'm pulling it. But there you go. Just like this. Okay, and you just keep pulling it until the adhesive flies out, just like that. All right, the replacement battery should come with replacement adhesive. If not, you can use any double stick tape. You don't want to put too much. You don't need it to hold really strong like the way Apple's doing it, but yeah, you actually only need a tiny bit of double stick tape. All right, so let's peel up the other two. Same thing, just grab that. You want to try and keep this as flat as possible and then just pull it out. Be careful that the adhesive doesn't get caught on the Taptic engine and then you might rip that cable out. So just do it like this. There we go. All right, and then we got the third one. Same thing. Peel that stuff out just like that. Uh-oh. So if it tears like that, then sometimes it can be a problem. I'm going to try and get it out with a tweezer. Sometimes that's the worst part, and you want to be careful because there are flat cables on the back of the screen. So there we go. Grab that, and again, that's why you have to kind of keep it flat. See, if it's not flat, then it tears easily. So I'm going to try and use my finger to kind of help it. See? So if you kind of just pull it up, it's too much at an angle, so you want to try and keep it flat. Here you can see I'm not really pulling it back, but if I push on this, it kind of helps it come out. Helps it a little bit. Okay, so just keep going. Uh-oh, to be careful here. Okay, I'm trying to help keep it more flat. The only problem is that Taptic engine is kind of in the way, so you have to be careful. You don't have to work it too fast. Be patient, do it slowly. It'll eventually get there, okay? There we go. So now we got the battery out. Let me zoom out. Okay, you can flip the Taptic engine back over. All right, and then we can actually put the screws back in place. Okay, just like this. All Alright, again, I always put them in loosely first. That way you can make sure everything lines up, and then you can tighten it down. Alright, so there we go. Alright, and if yours has lumps of adhesive around the frame, you actually want to get that stuff out because those lumps can make the screen sit unevenly, and then you can actually damage the screen if you put the screen back down on top of the uneven lumps, okay? So try and peel off the excess uneven adhesive if you can. Okay. I'm pretty sure somebody else worked on this phone before because there's not, all the adhesive is not on here like it usually is. Okay, so just peeling off the excess adhesive. Alright, and also after you replace the screen or the battery, your phone won't be waterproof anymore, so be very careful with that. Okay, so here we have the replacement battery, and then we also have the replacement adhesive. So what you want to do, make sure you get it the right way. Okay, these are aftermarket batteries. The only way to get original batteries is either from Apple or you get like a used pulled one. So usually the battery will come with this plastic thing on it. I don't know why they put this, but I just slide the battery out. Okay, so you kind of have to push the battery through from the top, and then you can push, and then you can hopefully just grab the battery and slide it out just like that. Okay. Alright, so next what you want to do, we're going to have to add those black tabs back over so that way if we need to remove it, we can easily peel this out. Again, you can also just use regular double stick tape. You don't have to use this stuff. Okay, so first thing you want to do, make sure you get it on the right side. You want the adhesive to go here, and then you want these little white tabs facing up. If you do it upside down, then you're going to have to throw away the adhesive because then your battery's going to be upside down. Okay, so first thing I like to do is I peel off, let me see if I can do it on this one. So I peel off the protective coating from these little tabs. Okay, so just like this, they have this little blue tab to kind of help, and then you just peel it over just like this. Okay, then what you want to do, you get the battery, put it on there, that way you can make sure it's lined up right. Okay, and then usually I have a little bit of the white from the other part of the adhesive showing. Okay, make sure that it's lined up right, and then just hold this battery down. Okay, you want to hold the battery down tight so it doesn't move anywhere. Grab the pink piece, flip it over, and then flip it on top, and then push down these so that the adhesive will stick on it. Okay, just like that, and there you go, you got the 3 tabs there. Okay, once you got those 3 tabs there, what you want to do, flip it back over. Okay, now you can see the pink tab goes there, and we're gonna have to peel this blue tab off. So the best way to do this, you want to actually fold it over like this, completely flat if you can, and then keep your fingers on top of this blue tab while you pull it. Okay, and this will keep it from pulling off the pink layer. Okay, so that's what you want to do, just like this. Okay, and just like that, try and keep it as flat as possible, and there we go. Okay, so you throw away those little blue tabs, and then you just grab the pink one, and then you fold it over the back of the battery. Okay, same like this, line it up, and then press that down. Okay, and then same thing when peeling off the pink one, you want to make sure you get a good stick onto the battery, and then you just grab the pink one, fold it over flat like before, like the blue one, and then you peel this while you're kind of holding it. If you don't do this, it'll form like some bubbles, like there still formed a bubble, but it'll be much worse. And then if it gets all wrinkly under the battery, it'll actually press against the back of the screen, and then it will cause problems. So you want to make sure you keep this completely flat, just like this. If it does get too many bubbles in it, or it's too like wrinkled, you'll actually want to throw away that adhesive, otherwise it can mess up your screen. Okay, and then what I do, grab the battery like this, and because of the way they fold this, you actually want to plug the battery in while you're holding it like this. Okay, connect the battery, make sure the battery is in properly, and then you use the side of the battery to push this fold even more to crease it over. Okay, so just like this, and then you drop the battery into place. Make sure that it's going into the whole slot. Okay, just like that, and there we go. So now you can push the battery down into place. You want to disconnect the battery again because we are going to be reconnecting the screen. Okay, so disconnect that battery, and then press and hold the power button again for 10 to 15 seconds. That will drain any power so you don't accidentally damage something. It looks like they had liquid damage in here at one point because that sticker is red, but yeah. Okay, so press and hold that. Okay, then we take the new screen, and it's easier to plug in this top cable first. If you do that last, it's going to be kind of a pain because it does kind of go at a weird angle when you kind of try and push it down. So here you can see the cable goes at a weird angle, so sometimes you kind of have to adjust it so it's easier for you to see. Get it into place. Okay, I know you're probably not getting a good view because it's hard to do this and show it, but make sure it gets in. And then the way you know it's lined up is you try and rub your finger over and it stays in place. Then you know you can pop that cable down. Okay. Be careful not to use anything sharp. I'm just using the pad of my finger to push it down. Okay. Then you want to get these things, do the same thing. Get it lined up. You want to be gentle. These connectors are very sensitive. You could easily damage it if you try and force it. Okay. So this one's not going in right. Nope, that's going off. Okay, so you want to check, make sure you're getting it right. It's a little bit tricky to get these connectors. I always have an issue getting it right away. It always takes some time. You want to be patient, make sure that you're getting it in. See, if you don't, then you can actually damage the whole phone. Okay, so make sure, nope, that's not it. Man, I hate these connectors. Apple, I'm pretty sure Apple could have made it better, but they wanted to make it difficult. All right. Again, be patient. Try and get it in. Come on. Might have to adjust it. So this is the most annoying part of this. Getting this connector in right. There we go. I think that's it. Okay. Staying in place, pop it down. You should feel it click. If you don't feel it click, you probably did it wrong, so you want to take it back out and then try again. Okay, there we go. Clicked into both sides. After you do that, you can reconnect the battery. All right, and then we're going to test it before we put everything else back, those metal brackets. Okay, so press and hold the power button, and you should see the Apple come on. There we go. So we're good to go. The other things you want to test is the ear speaker, of course. Make a call, cover the top of the screen when you make a call. The screen should turn off. Also test the home button, make sure the fingerprint sensor's working. You do have to sign in with your PIN after doing this, of course, the first time, and then your fingerprint sensor Touch ID should work. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to put back the brackets now. I'm going to have to shut down the phone though, so it doesn't show any personal stuff on there. But let me wait till it completely starts up. Come on. If you want, the phone, the screens and stuff sometimes will come with, wait, let me test this. Okay, home button's working. I can't test the camera and stuff because they didn't give me their password, so I'm just going to turn it off. All right, so yeah, like I was saying earlier, some of them come with the adhesive. You can replace it if you want, but still, even with that adhesive, it won't make your phone waterproof anymore, or it won't make it waterproof again. So be very careful. If you do that adhesive, I always find it doesn't go in right and it doesn't really help with anything, so I usually don't put that adhesive in. But if you do put the adhesive, you actually have to apply it before you reconnect all these screens, and it just makes the job a lot more difficult. Doesn't really help much, so I don't really put that back. Okay, so now that the phone's off, we're going to put back all those little metal covers, again using the Y000 screwdriver. Okay, so this one had the screw that's already still stuck in it, so we're just going to put that back in place. Okay, line it up. Then again, I just loosely put it first until I got all the screws in place. Just like that. All right, the third one. All right, so there we go. Then once you get 3 screws in, you can tighten them down. Again, this one was a little bit weird that it also pulled up the thing below it, so that was kind of strange. Usually it will just get the screw itself. Let's see if it will come out now, or if it's still gonna pull. Oh, there we go. Okay, so there, now I got just the screw itself. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten that back on top. Just wanted to make sure it tightened down all the way. Okay, there we go. Now we're gonna get this bracket, and then we'll put the screws back on there. You want to be very careful because the battery is connected, it's live. You don't want to accidentally touch anything on the board and then short it out. So be very careful when putting back the screws. Make sure everything's lined up. You don't want to accidentally slip and then damage something. Okay, there we go. That screw loosely. All right, almost there. Only 3 screws left. Okay, get that screw in. All right, and you want to be careful opening the screen. I don't know if you saw, like, it sometimes will get caught, so you want to be careful when lifting the screen back up. Okay, there we go. All right, and then tighten those screws in. Okay, and then make sure you get so to put this back, you do have to get the top in first. So you have to lift the bottom up, slide it in so that this thing goes in place. And then what you want to do, you don't want to push it down from the top down. You actually want to push the bottom in first. And then that way, when you push down, it will line the whole screen up. If you push this side in first, a lot of times this part will be sticking out too far, and then you won't be able to get that bottom lip done. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn it back on, make sure it's on. Okay, looks good. Push on the screen, make sure it's not putting any pressure. If it does get weird pressure light pieces, that means this piece isn't in the right spot, because this bulge will be trapped sometimes underneath the speaker. So you want to actually adjust this piece if it's making like pressure lights when you push on it down here. Okay, so actually it might be doing that, but actually this is towards the center, so that's actually the battery. So the battery, I might have to put a little pressure on it. I'm going to open this up, and then I'm going to kind of squeeze on it to kind of hopefully get the battery to compress a little bit, because otherwise it can actually damage the LCD. So I'm going to lift this screen back up. You want to be very careful not to break this new screen. Okay, just like this. Okay, and then we're going to lift this up and then pull the screen slightly down as we open it like a book. Okay, and here's what I mean. This part sometimes also with that adhesive is a little too thick, so you want to press that and make sure it's completely flat. Okay, otherwise that can cause problems with the screen. And this is the part, this part that bulges out, it has to go in this little gap here. So if you press on the screen and it starts getting light marks there, then that's because this is not lined up properly. Okay, so there we go. Again, we're gonna put the screen back on, top first with the bottom open. Okay, once you get that lined up, then you push on the bottom corners, okay, and then work your way up the center. Right, make sure everything is lined up. And then it looks like, okay, the battery thing is a lot better. If you push really hard, it will still get the light, but you shouldn't be pushing that hard on your oops. All right, so other than that, it looks like it's good to go. Now we're going to get the P2 or pentalobe 0.8 screws and put them back, and we're good to go. Okay, so just flip the phone up like that, get the screw in, make sure that you put it in the screw hole and not in the speaker grill. I've had some people drop their screws in the speaker grill, and then it's a real pain to try and get it back out. Okay, get the other screw, Put that in. And there we are. We're good to go. So hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, like and subscribe. Help others find my videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. If you're not sure which phone model you have, I probably should have mentioned earlier, but on the back, they'll have this model number, A1661. That's an iPhone 7 Plus. So the newer models, I think they actually removed the model numbers from it. It's kind of stupid, but I don't know. I guess Apple wanted to make people confused. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.